This paddle, $500. This dry suit, $1,200. But some of the most essential gear I carry in my boat cost less than $100. I paddle solo in Maine all year long and in all conditions. It's an environment that is unforgiving when gear fails. Everything I carry has to earn its spot. Today, I'm showing you the gear under $100 that I trust with my life and the specific reasons why each one made the cut. Not all of these are going to be obvious. Can you even believe it today? It is gorgeous. I'm hot. Usually I look for more isolated places to paddle. Today I'm on Eastern Harbor in South Addison. The town is all around here. This is not wild and untamed Maine in the same way that I usually seek out. Usually when I launch from South Addison, I go south and I explore some of those islands, but today it's not really an option. We're in between storms. There's a huge blizzard coming up the coast, and we're starting to feel some of that wind on the eastern side of things. So I needed some protection between me and that wind, and this little harbor offered that today. This is an expensive activity. There are some ways you can make it less expensive, and maybe that would be a cool episode to do sometimes. On like my ideas on like how to get into sea kayaking for not a crazy amount of money. But the reality is like stuff is expensive, and even more beginner sea kayak paddling equipment isn't cheap. But that doesn't mean everything has to be super expensive. And I wanted to share today some of the maybe unexpected things that I carry that I consider essential to my kit that are under that constraint that I said of under $100. These are kind of like the weird and wacky things maybe, or the things you wouldn't expect might be in a boat that, have just really earned their place. You know, every square inch in this boat, particularly when I'm camping, is valuable space. It's not so much weight, it's space. And at very least, even just like schlepping stuff down and the amount of stuff that goes into the boat, even just for a day trip. So everything has got to be, at least in my opinion, really thought out and really useful. It's got to either do a couple of things really well or solve a really big problem that we as sea kayakers might have on the water in a fun, interesting, or unique way. This isn't going to be like a gear list, go buy this, go do this episode. I really just wanted to share like some of those things as I think about them that might be a little bit unexpected. Okay, the first piece of gear is actually the piece of gear I'm most excited about sharing with you. This brings me so much joy because of what it does. This is a mouth air horn. I mean, can you believe that it came from this? What an awesome tool. I love this thing. So this is $4.99, and there's no like moving parts from the compressed air foghorns, or maybe like there's like a hand pump foghorn. Those are enormous. They take up a lot of space. The reality is if you need to get that, you're not going to get it out of your boat if it is foggy, or if you do need to signal somebody. But when it is foggy, I just pop this around my neck and paddle, and depending on where I am, maybe every like minute or two, I'm giving it a blast. But what a fun, awesome piece of equipment. I'm going to give you a top tip here that purchased these a couple years ago, kind of organizing some things in the kit. I always test my stuff every once in a while, maybe every season, every couple of times a season, just to see, make sure it works, right? So I got this out. I was in my office. I blew it, and it just was like, and the membrane that sits inside here had just disintegrated. It was all done. But I was determined to find a way. So I went to the store and bought some latex party balloons, cut the top off a latex party balloon, stretched it over where the membrane used to be, where the membrane was, and just put the lid back on, and here I go. And what it informed me of is like, hey, you should carry an extra latex balloon in your first aid kit. That takes up zero space, just in case something happens to this. If it dries out, or I don't check it, or it rips and tears and I don't have it, I can really easily cut that latex balloon that I have, put it over the top, and go for it again. I'll even say that the latex balloon that I bought must be like a slightly thicker, or slightly thicker piece of latex than they use on the original foghorn, because it sounds better. It's deeper and louder now with this latex balloon solution that I made. But so much joy. I don't want to blow it too much. I'm going to do it one more time because I don't want somebody to think that I need help. But one more time, just for you. And I can hear it echoing. Anyway, that's my first piece. $4.99. Always with me. Sorry, friends. I think you're horribly backlit right now. Which is one of the challenges here, I think, early season that I've noticed. The sun is just lower in the sky, and it's hard to find a position that you're not getting lens flare. But I hit an obstacle that I don't think I'm getting through. This part of the bay at low tide dries out, so it creates this layer of ice as it's drying out, and then obviously it just rises and falls with the tide. And yeah, I'm not getting through that. Time to turn around. So the mouth horn allows me to tell people where I am. But the other thing that I carry is something that allows me to remember where I am. When I'm in a new area or when it's foggy, I'll write things down in a waterproof notebook that I carry with me. Instead of having to have that piece of information at the top of my brain, I can put it down in a notebook and I can know it's there, right? I can know I passed this island and I don't have to worry if was that this island or that island? I know where I was. I'll even write the time of the day when I passed that island, just as an extra piece of information that I can understand, okay, it took me 2 hours to get to this point. So I know I can get back in 2 hours, right? Nothing too revolutionary there. But in fog, when I'm making fog crossings, I'll write my bearing down. I'll even write my transit time down. Again, just to get it out of my brain. Also, every day that I paddle, I also write the marine forecast and the tide times in the notebook, and I have it with me. Again, so I'm not guessing. Was that 2 o'clock? Was that 3 o'clock? I got it. I have it. Now, I've had a journey with waterproof notebooks. I think there's another one kicking around. Maybe I forgot to bring the other one. That's how many. No, it's in there. I've had a journey with waterproof notebooks that I've really dialed in what I like. These range from $5 to maybe $8 or $9. I like this size because I can fit it in my PFD easily. Once they get too big, they get unwieldy, and I just find I use them less. So there are Right in the Rain is a really common brand, right? So there's Right in the Rain, they're waterproof, water resistant paper. This can get wet and it can hold up, but once it gets really wet, it really becomes not impossible, but really hard to write on. So these are great to write on, and if they get wet, they're not deteriorating, but if they're wet, they're really tricky. The Right in the Rain company also has Duro-Write, which is a more maybe plasticky paper that it can be soaking wet and you can write on it. I really like these. I really like the Duro-Writes. I find these things, this is where I nerd out, friends. I find these, the spirals to be a little tricky. They get bent out of shape, they can get a little rusty. I also struggle with staples. Some of these notebooks have staples in them, and the staples get rusty and rust out. So I've tried some with fabric binding or glue binding, but those, again, there's the paper that I don't love that once it gets really wet, it's kind of inoperable. I will say one of my actually favorite brands is Field Notes Expedition Notes. It is a great plastic paper. There are staples in it, which isn't great, right? They'll rust. But yeah, I like these for the size. They're a little bit bigger size than the Right in the Rain. So this has kind of been my go-to notebook. It's a great size, fits easily in my PFD, and yeah, gives me everything I need when I'm on the water. Probably more nerddom about waterproof notebooks than you care to find out, but it's important to me, and I felt like I had a lot of information about the different options. The ice sheet behind me makes a good segue into the next two items, actually, because I'm making a foray into cold weather paddling specific items. I think here in Maine, I might consider cold weather paddling, going from October to May, realistically, that there can be 40-degree days out on the water and the ocean temperature is not much higher. So it's a constant consideration for me, and it may not be for you, but it is for me. And these are the things that are on my list. So the next item is my alcohol stove. The need that this fills is if I or someone I'm paddling with starts to become hypothermic and I need to warm someone up, that's such an easy, lightweight, fast way for me to heat water up. There are no moving parts in these stoves. There's a reservoir that you put some denatured alcohol in, a little pot stand. I've got a pot that goes with it that put some water in, heat up, and I can get some warm liquids in myself or somebody else. Always in the back of my mind on these trips is what if I have to spend a lot of time somewhere, right, on an island waiting for help, or something happens that, I guess help would take a while to get to me. How am I going to deal with that? How am I going to keep myself warm? Or more obviously, if someone is experiencing hypothermia, how do I warm them back up? So that alcohol stove is just a really fast way. I don't want to carry a camp stove with moving parts in a marine environment that I also have to get a butane canister with, some sort of ignition source. It all just starts to add up a bit. So with the stove, I will say I am skirting that $100 mark. My stove's a titanium stove, and I have a titanium pot. And I also carry a fire steel with it to be able to give it an ignition source. Again, all things that I know are just going to work no matter what. I'm not worrying about lighters or waterproof matches. But I am skirting the $100 mark with that at $89. And then if you add a windscreen, that might add up. Anyway, I realize that one's close, but there are very inexpensive alcohol stoves and very inexpensive stainless steel pots that you could get that would do a great job for what you need it to do. Okay, I'm on the land for this next one. And that next thing is my emergency bothy bag or emergency shelter. This is more than just an emergency blanket. This is essentially like a big plastic bag you can pull over yourself. And this is a 2-person version, another person. There are 4-person versions. This clocks in around $75, and I did get another stuff sack for it just to compress it a little bit. This is always with me. Whenever it's cold, this always just gets chucked into the hatch, and it always comes along. I don't usually set it up much outside of my backyard because it is emergency orange, and I don't want someone to see it on an island and get worried and call the authorities. But yeah, just a really simple way to throw this over you, or you and another person, and your body heat and or the sun are going to heat that space up incredibly quickly. It's so warm in here, my glasses are steaming up. This is such a weird piece of kit. I know it's an emergency thing, but it is so fun. There's something so fun about getting in here. And yeah, if you needed to warm up, this would do it pretty quickly. This, like the stove, are two pieces that I've never had to use out in real situations. I've always just tested them, or days like today, taken them out and played with them, or made tea with the alcohol stove, the non-essential things. But yeah, I love having them in the boat. They solve such big problems so simply, and I think that is sort of the root of what this episode is. Like, how do we make decisions, and how do we solve problems, and how are we prepared to deal with things in like interesting and maybe unexpected ways? Okay, I gotta get out of here. I'm way too hot. Whew. We're getting all the fishermen coming back from their time at sea, and we're pretty close to the launch in this harbor here. So we're gonna get some boat noise, which is something I try to avoid for you, but it's gonna be a little unavoidable today. Quickly to say, I'm brand agnostic on most of the stuff I showed you. Obviously, except for the waterproof notebooks, which I nerded out a little bit. Thanks for going along with me there. I do have thoughts there, but everything else, I haven't really tried other brands or things to know differences or benefits. I'm really just kind of focusing on the piece of equipment. So, yeah, don't get too worried about like what brand. Like a simple Google search will take you to all the places that you need to go. Okay, the last thing that I wanted to share with you, and this is like near and dear to my heart because I made it. I couldn't find one of these that had what I wanted. I was always disappointed with them. So I took all of the things I wanted in a navigation protractor and I made it. I made the design. I found someone to manufacture them. I ordered several hundred and I sell them on my website for zero profit. So this is not a money-making endeavor. This is not sponsored content. This is just something I love as a sea kayaker and use and find it really helpful if I'm on the water to take really quick bearings or understand what I'm looking at, or for a fog crossing, just a real quick, easy tool for me. And again, it's made with all of the things that like I wanted these to have when I would use one or not have for that matter. So you can go to my website, steveckayak.com/store, check them out. If they're helpful, you great. This is a low pressure sales environment here. But I do love this because, yeah, I guess I'm gonna say like it made the list because it's just such a solid piece of kit for me to do so many things when I'm on the water so easily. And again, by designing it my own way and putting what I wanted on it, it cut out a lot of the extra noise in using this when I needed to use it. So that's my last item. $10 on steveckayak.com. Another fishing boat coming in here. You're gonna have to live with its gurgles, friends. I can hear them sort of lined up out to sea. There's been 2 or 3 that have come in. I think it's just going to continue to happen. I also asked a bunch of my paddling friends, like, what's on your list? Like, not things that are obvious, like a bilge pump or a sponge or a paddle float. You know, those are pretty common and obvious things. Like, I wanted to know the things that, like, somebody might not expect. What are the things, as I'm getting the wake from that boat coming in, what are the things that they carried that were a surprise under that $100 mark? And I got a couple of really cool ideas. One friend shared a rescue laser, right? So this laser you can point at somebody without like taking an aircraft down or burning out their retinas, that really just light you up along the horizon. So a really easy way for someone in search and rescue, as you're pointing this thing that like spreads out. Nice. That spreads out and makes a really wide beam to be able to identify where you are. I thought that was really cool. I looked them up online, and those were under $75. So yeah, so that's one of the interesting things that I may look into, a rescue laser. Another friend really loved I'm sorry, friends, that's so loud. I try so hard for you to not have these noises and these distractions, but I'm going to be here all day if I don't do this now. Okay, I asked another friend, and he really loved his palmless neoprene mittens. I think they're called shittens. It's a great name. I want to hug whoever named them. And I'm not really sure, like, is that a portamento? I couldn't really put together where that came from, but palmless mittens. So you can still get the benefit of neoprene warmth, but feel the shaft of your paddle blade. I really like this. I don't know if they'd work for me in this production environment. I think I need to get my hands and my fingertips out so much that, and then I'm out in the air. So I don't know. I may try them, maybe not for production like this, but may try them for paddling. So yeah, shittens. And then another friend said they carry 2 deflated beach balls. And I love this. I have a pretty expensive NRS, like wedge-shaped hatch float, right? Blow it up, fills up the space. This is great if you like spring a leak or lose a hatch cover. You can fill up that space with air and not sink. But my friend uses these 2 deflated beach balls. She just has them folded up in her kit. And I love that idea. How much are beach balls? I have no idea, but I'm definitely 2 are under $100. So I really love that idea as well. So that's what my friend group came up with, of the kind of odd things that they carry that are under $100 that have earned a place in their kit that are sort of beyond the ordinary. What are your things? I would really love to know from a selfish standpoint, so I can use them and add them to my kit, but just so we can start sharing together in the comment space. I love hearing from all of you and your thoughts, and I learned so much from all of you, and this is another, I think, interesting thing that we can all share and support each other in this paddling community with. So put your things in the comments below that fit this criteria. If you enjoyed this type of thing, I've got other episodes of me unpacking principles of sea kayaking and going on journeys and kayak camping, and I'd love to hear your thoughts over there. Well, all right, friends, we're going to end this one here. I hope this was helpful. I hope you got some new things that you're going to try, and I hope the comments section is a really fun area for all of us to explore. Well, as always, I hope you enjoy your adventures, whatever they are, and until next time, safe paddling. Bye for now.